That's another episode of Mind Culture podcast. Today we have Alexander Chernyshkov, the man of many talents, who I would describe as a contemporary composer, obviously, improviser, but also director, choreographer, even though he's coming from the field of composition, as well as producer, as we just learned.
Nice to be here.
Nice to have you here. So tell me about this project that you did with crowdfunding, actually, because you 1.5 years ago you did crowdfunding, and you did a project in Moscow, and I'm actually curious how the experience was.
Yeah, basically it was like we had this. I mean, everything started like 1 year before that with this first opera or music theater that I wrote, this transcription of an error, transcription of a mistake. So, and it was like the first experience of actually composing not a piece anymore, so not like a musical composition, but already composing gestures, composing, I don't know, laughter, smiles, movements, but it all would come from a musical logic. So actually it was still a musical piece, but then it would become actually a music theater. And we did the first premiere at the Venice Biennale in 2016. And after that it was okay. The feeling was so awesome. Like by doing it, like the first two rehearsals, which were actually pre-rehearsals. So like it was already still a month before the premiere, actually, do I look here or there? Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, good.
Just talk to me, that's
okay,
fine.
Good. And we had, so 1 month before that, we had these pre-rehearsals. And normally when you are working as a composer, so you are like months at home writing the score, then you give it to musicians, then you start doing it. And then it's like basically 2-3 rehearsals, which are always very stressed because you have those, I don't know, one rehearsal is 1 hour, the second 2 hours, whatever. It's all about getting the score good, and then it's already general or even not general, and it's a premiere and maybe another one and it's over. And here in the music theater or a theater, normally you have like 6 weeks every day, 6 hours a day, every day for 6 weeks. And in that case, it was everything low budget, so we had like actually 1 week or like 1 week plus those 2 pre-rehearsals. So we are coming in and finally I'm rehearsing and we have like the whole day, 3 days in a row, and we're trying things out. There is already the score, so we are doing already the piece, but then suddenly there is this moments when you can just kind of like be very free because you have time, and you say, okay, repeat that, but do it slower. And you just like, and I will just, I will conduct your dynamics and stuff like that. So you start actually composing in real time or checking things out.
So how many days did you have to set up the piece? Because you said that normally you have, there are so many questions I have to the process of contemporary composition, but actually you said that normally you have 3 days just with rehearsing with the orchestra or whatever you compose on?
It always depends on the difficulty of the piece and duration. So if it's an orchestra, it's normally even less. So the conductor will normally set the rehearsal schedule. So he will tell, okay, for this piece we will need, 1 rehearsals with the separate groups, and then 2 big ones or some stuff like that. If it's a bigger piece, then longer. If it's a chamber music piece with people you know, then it's kind of just the ensemble manager will say, okay, for the Chernyshkov piece we will have a Monday, Wednesday and Thursday. But normally it's like 3, and then it's already general sound check and something like that.
And for this one you had more time. So.
Yes, but music theater, everything changes because there it's actually, you come from the perspective of, yes, the music and the score are already there before. So actually everybody kind of comes to the rehearsals already prepared, already they know the score. So the rehearsals are actually about staging. So what happens is that the people actually, now it's actually the stage director's time now. So everybody already knows the music, so he's just, okay, you will do this aria while going from there to there and shaving yourself and jumping on one leg.
How long did you take for this?
And I mean, we had like 1 week basically, yeah.
So that sounds like a luxury, it's like double the time. Almost.
Yes, but because it's...
But they already know the music.
Yeah, but again, it was a mixture because I was also, I mean, there was actually a stage director with me. We were working together, but it was very hand-in-hand work. So, because the music was very much involving stage movements as well. So he was like, it was me starting and saying, okay, let's do this and do this. And then he would be, okay, Sasha, now I will go. And then at some point he would say, okay, what do we do now, Sasha? And I would go. And we would just exchange, so to say. And the funny thing that I noticed, like in the first rehearsals, was like, it was so much fun. Fun, like I never had this fun in rehearsals. Like you have this kind of fun, this, you know, this flow. Like, okay, maybe you're not always sure, but it's like you're just finding, you're just trying things out. Not this, not this, and at some point, yes, this. Okay, we fix this, let's repeat and go on. This kind of, you know, this fantastic feeling of building something. Which you don't have in the normally musical rehearsals, because the score is already fixed. So you just learn it, and everybody learns it. So you just rehearse it, and then you play it.
Right.
So it was like, wow, I want to do it every day for the rest of my life, possibly.
Okay. So I can see we have a new director coming up right here. Yeah, but tell me once and for all, because I have been dancing and like choreographing music theater with. Well, we did a performance together, yes. But then also working with Hannes Kerschbaumer on two of his music theaters. But can you explain me once and for all what is a music theater? Because when I think music theater, I think, you know, musical or opera or operette. Like that is something that is already very kind of hard to understand.
It's a
but
great
what
question.
is a music theater?
All right, so strictly if you would, like in a normal context of just like people not knowing so much about it, if you say that, that basically means opera. Like the Magic Flute, Puccini, that's music theater. You have the orchestra, singers, actors, collaborating together, that's the music theater. So there is a
operette
score.
Is also a music theater.
Yes.
Everything that has centers about music is a music theater,
yes,
right?
Also musical would be actually a
music
theater, yes.
Okay.
But what happens, especially in the 20th century, slowly, but I would say it actually kind of starts from the middle of the 20th century with composers like Dieter Schnebel, Goebbels, Apergis, but also from Beckett already, because he would write these short or long pieces which are very basically like little scores, like they're very absurd but they're almost like kind of like you don't really there's not so much to stage, and there is some kind of music. There is, for example, scores. He gives indications about light, also about music. So, and that I would actually call that composed theater. Like this is actually and it's already a term which is being used. So it's
composed theater.
Composed theater. So it's basically that means that there is still a collective of people or one person who's still making the final decisions. And that person is working with all the elements of the theater, of the music theater. So light, music, text, and movements, choreographies, let's say. And all these elements, electronics, and I mean, you can extend it. And all these elements are not, there is not a clear hierarchy. So basically all these elements are being composed, say, polyphonically. Maybe there is maybe there is a scene where the light is the main factor. And because in the typical opera, say, the hierarchy is absolutely pre-decided. At the beginning, there is a composer. Either he's dead. This is Giuseppe Verdi, or he's somebody who has been commissioned. He finishes the score. There is a libretto before that. Either it's an old one or written one. So he has the text. So there is a libretto. Then there is a score. Then he delivers the score with all the parts to the things. And then the stage director receives it, and then he does what the hell he wants with it. Maybe consulting a little bit. Exactly. And then there is the light rehearsals and everything. So there's the very predefined process with a lot of organization, basically like movie making and cinema. And it's also very like all the operas are working in that environment, and it's it's very productive. I mean, it has all this amazing, like there is one building only for costumes and for scenes. But of course, you lose this possibility of of having a different approach.
So now in contemporary composition world, it's like more mixed. But then, why is it different than choreographing?
I think actually it's not. I think probably it is actually. I see much more similarities with the contemporary dance because also their way of working is basically coming there. I don't know, like what is the schedule of a normal troupe or dance company.
Well, it's very personal.
Okay,
very
but
personal.
probably still every day you come, you rehearse, and then at some point you fix it, and then you repeat. Yeah. So, but then the composing happens in this process, right?
Yeah. So like it's an interesting thing because what is choreography is also a big question. Like there is also, of course, this more traditional way of doing things. I'm even talking traditional way in contemporary choreography, where like you have some kind of music, you have some kind of set, and you work like you have some kind of props, and you work with them, and you create dance to it, or with it, or around it. Or some text as well. But there's also like performance art, and then it becomes mixing with choreography, especially in Vienna, and then it becomes this intertwined like art forms where it's like performers go on stage and maybe they don't even move anymore, but they like sing and I don't know, talk and all of that.
But the process of defining the piece and composing it, that happens in the rehearsals.
Absolutely, yes. So it's really hard to. I mean, maybe some people do it like this. I don't know. But for me, I could imagine that it's really that the beauty of the contemporary dance is also because you don't have to have a absolutely predefined idea. So you can actually come in the space and research. So you're not like this mastermind that wrote everything on paper like for a movie, but you actually come and do a research on a topic.
Yes. Well, that for me would be the similarity with the composed theater. Of course, you have people in composed theater who maybe are working more like masterminds and doing. I prefer really stuff like that. Like basically, okay, I do come with idea, but then we develop it, and then after the rehearsals, then I would kind of fix it more. I would kind of work on it already with the material that we tried. Like, because basically, why do you need that? Because you see what works and what doesn't. And especially if you want to do stuff that, try new stuff out that you don't know yet whether they will work or not, you need to see that. That's actually an interesting link to stand-up comedy as well, because like you never know if one thing is going to be funny on stage.
For sure. And I think that's why it's so important to have guests during your rehearsals actually as well, and like all these intermediary showings where you like share with a group of friends or a group of strangers what you do. And of course, if you're like a mastermind composer, it's very hard to do that. Where it's like you come with a sheet of paper and it's supposed to be working, but
yeah, I mean, you have to be basically open, and if something that's another thing, very big difference between musical theater and like, so to say, written, like contemporary written music. Well, basically in theater, if something, it's interesting. It's like the bar is set actually higher, I would say. Like say that admitting that we are doing really like high art, terrible word, but so to say, like we are really want to do something special. The bar is higher because if something really doesn't work, whether it's because of light or whether it's because there wasn't enough time to develop it, or maybe you even see shit, it will work, it will be perfect, but the general is in after tomorrow or there is no time. You just have to basically either cut it or do like you basically, there is no way of saying like there is actually when you write a score, you do compose it, and then maybe you do hear in the rehearsal, because I mean there is like for orchestra there is so many things and you have like 2-3 rehearsals,
but then you can change, like you can tweak it, but
there's no time anymore. And also there is no possibility, I mean if it's some little thing like okay, just let's cut the double basses and make the cello louder, whatever. Yes, you can do that. But if you're noticing that because the trumpets are not really coming through, the whole section doesn't make sense, you will not say, let's cut the section.
Yeah.
And not only because it's not possible, because actually it's possible. We just say the bar from 100 to 150, we just cross it. But for a lot of psychological issues, like if you say that in a like before the orchestra, either you're already like an affirmed legend. Otherwise, it's like, does he has
pressure?
Does he has an idea what he's doing? Like,
you
know, this kind of stuff.
Yeah, the more people, the more pressure, right?
Yeah, especially orchestras and like institutions. That's different, like different kind of things.
Wow, but that is, that I mean, I always find it amazing, like how, well, both film directors and like composers can actually pull it off, this whole mastermind kind of thinking, and I'm always trying to develop it in myself, but somehow like there is something great about just being in a theater where you can, or in a studio where you can try things, and it's like nothing can, because also I don't know, like it's also about the innovation, the thing that you said. Like if I was, for example, always using the same movement, or if I was always using the same strategies, that would be a different story. But if I'm trying to find like new ways to express with the body, or new ways to express with objects in the body, or whatever, it's not something that I'm gonna develop in my head in a way.
But that's great. That's great that to be aware of that, because then you just like right now we're rehearsing this piece for Starische Herbst, and we have this thing that I schedule the rehearsals that we have 1 week in May. Then the next rehearsals are 2 weeks in August, and then 2 weeks in September.
So you have time to think about it.
Yes, so there was this one development moment. After this, I absorb it and I compose more, but still not until the end. We will, like in 2 weeks, we will work on it again, and then already the last phase, so to say. And there you can kind of mix this both methods. You still plan things, but then you check them out. And then, of course, if you have the luckiness or the fortune of having, you know, like people that you kind of know or you work already with, then you can, you know, basically, like you can try. There is some trust, right? So you just at some point you say, okay, I have no idea how this thing goes on, and
can you help me?
Yeah, for example, or normally people have so many ideas on their own that you don't even need to say. They're already saying, oh, and then I do this. So you're basically, sometimes you go in the background, you just absorb everybody, and then...
But like you're also very open, like spirit. So if you were only to make a choreography, you probably would be also very interested in that. Like I have the feeling that the music is, because, I mean, maybe I make a link to something else, because like when it comes to contemporary composition, like first of all, what is contemporary composition? That is my first question. And second question, like how do you, what is contemporary composition? Because, there are different kinds of music, and you know, people listen to experimental music, but it's like not really experimental comparing with what you are doing as you know, as an artist.
Yeah.
Group.
Oh,
and,
you know.
And I'm actually curious. It's so many questions, but anyway, like how do you come to do what the things that you're doing? Because you're working with objects, you're working with like actually deconstructing objects, deconstructing instruments, deconstructing voice, deconstructing the process of composition itself.
Yeah.
Like where does it come from?
Well, it's actually basically it's easy in the sense that first of all, I am aware that it's not so. I mean, at the end, of course, we come to the society where it seems that it's me who does it, and yes, it's me who kind of says the words and does the things. But there was a moment where I was very aware that actually I'm just sitting at some point, and then at some point an idea comes, and then this idea just stays. You just think about it, and then maybe another link comes, and then maybe it forms, and then you just write it down. And it was very obvious for me that actually I did nothing to have that idea. All I did was actually give some space to the idea to come, like basically sitting down without worrying about having to run somewhere and also stuff, just chilling down basically, but in an alertive way, like chilling down, looking around, and still already having, of course, some sort of gravity in my head, like, okay, I don't know, 2 days ago I was in Verona before coming to Vienna yesterday, and I was at the balcony, and there is just the light was in a strange way, and there was this actually a kiparis, like this cipresso, this these trees that are mostly in the cemeteries in Italy, like very high, and so there is the tree standing, and it's not completely dark, but almost, and it's almost the whole tree seems like a huge smoke moving around, and the wind also helps. So I'm just looking at this tree. And then from very far away, I hear a sound from a car, which is like very loud, but very far away. And I mean, this thing of uniting space in the...
So connecting one image with another image.
Exactly. So for me, and then I would then I just start to kind of evolve it in my head. So for me, then I wrote it down as a scene, like say we are in a theater, and say there is a huge smoke thing, maybe a chemical reaction happening, a real chemical reaction happening on the stage. Maybe like some of this fire snake, but a huge one, like for half an hour it grows and grows, stuff like that. And at the same time, far away, there is something happening, and you think it doesn't matter with the piece because maybe it's somebody on the street, and it's something really, really loud and electrical. Maybe it's actually a performer that has a throat microphone, and he's singing, talking, and and he has a feedback, and it's like almost like stuff like that. And then suddenly he comes into the theater, so it's far away, fortissimo, but we hear it very pianissimo with the smoke, and we are not even sure where it's related or not. Then he comes in, it's a really huge burst of energy. Then he goes inside through the audience, and then he just turns off the amplifier, and all these electrical sounds are just turn off into a very normal speech of him just talking. Actually, maybe it's a advertisement of I don't know, Dry or Magenta, or I don't know, like in free internet, and it's
But then you say like you okay, so you combining images together, but also like I always feel trapped. I mean, when I'm creating that. Okay, but then I need to create sense between this and this, and then it has to connect to this topic, and then that has to perfectly make sense because there are gonna be people that they're gonna come to see the performance, and they will try to make sense out of it.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if maybe contemporary composition is a little bit more free of making sense, and maybe I should rather move to that while doing exactly the same what I'm doing. But I'm always looking for like, this freedom, because what you described to me is like the feeling of freedom, freedom of creativity. And
well, that's what you have to search, not the thing that who will make sense. I mean, of course, the primary question is whether it makes sense to you. And I mean, where do you draw the line? Okay, now it makes enough sense that I can put it out or not. That's actually a very, very open question. So, and probably everyone has his different approach, is very personal. Like for me, I almost never ask myself this, but I always notice that at some point it comes to have a sense. And I always notice that when it has a structural sense, that the pieces kind of come together from a structural, energetical point of view, which makes a lot of
intuitive.
Yes, exactly. Then, with the little right adjustments or points, whether it has to do with text or some topic, it will also all tick together on another level as well.
But musical, as a composition experience is mostly auditory. Like that's the main sense that you're attacking, right?
No, I would always put the text there.
Text.
But of course, for me, the main thing for me, text is I would say it's 80% sounds and 20% meaning. But I'm aware there is of course meaning there. But I'm almost always, I notice it that normally I would very much enjoy somebody, for example, saying something very okay, I wouldn't say radical, but something meaningful. So somebody saying something to you, and then because of decomposition or some sort of process, you actually notice, okay, actually it doesn't matter what he says, it's just a piece. Okay, he wasn't actually talking. But then suddenly suck, and again he's talking to you. So like playing between this thing, whether what I'm saying is like right now I'm speaking, and of course you're listening, like what I'm saying is the primary focus, but it probably would be enough that I just go listen.
Well, maybe not for the people listening. Yeah. But if someone is watching from outside, they probably don't notice a difference.
Exactly, but then you see, then your focus is actually on how I'm saying it, because I just maybe whispering it. So that becomes the, and that's what happens when you hear, mostly you hear an aria or a song, or like something that there is a text, and you actually listen to how it's sung.
Well, when it comes to opera, like I don't get it. Like I don't get any word they say.
Oh, for instance.
Because it's in Italian or Russian or whatever.
And also it has a strong vibrato, so you don't hear.
Like I don't get anything. Like I can read on internet what is the transcription of it, but other than that, I don't get it. It's just music, 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 dance, 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 or
I mean, of course, the meaning is still there. So I mean, I right now was exaggerating. Of course, you know, it's like you've been hearing to a song without knowing the words, and you've been enjoying it 100%. Then after 2 years, you just suddenly you read the text, and it was this. Maybe it even changes completely.
Yeah, sometimes, you know, when I listen to songs, actually it's this, like you get the sensation, and then once you read the lyrics, it's even more.
It's even more, exactly. Yeah.
Or the opposite. Or the opposite. Less. It destroys the songs completely.
Yes, both happens.
Yeah.
Both happens.
Do you listen to music?
Yes, but less and less.
Okay, why?
From 2-3 years in this direction, like listening, okay, going to live events, concerts, yes, always. Like, I mean, when I do it, I try to do it most of the time. But like being at home or being somewhere and putting the music, like almost never from these last 2-3 years.
Yeah, that's what I had also with Hannes Kershbaumer when I spoke with him. I think it's a contemporary composer thing, like
before all the time.
Yeah.
Like since I was like from 12 years old, almost never had without headphones. Every time, even falling asleep, going around, always. Like my mother was actually then putting the stereo away from me and stuff. I mean, nothing crazy, but just really all the time. And now I don't know. It's like I do listen still a lot to some. It might be an audiobook or a podcast. Less podcast is more like some audiobook or some like a lecture, you know, like on biology, on some topic that interests me.
But music, no.
Not so much, no.
Why?
And if music, then really something concrete, like like I don't know, magnetic field, like pop songs, or like I don't know, Bach or Chopin or something, not an orchestra, something which is you can really, because I mean you hear it through the headphones. Like why would you hear a huge orchestra through your headphones? I mean, when you listen to it through headphones, it's really like it's a different experience, which is actually amazing. I mean, it has its great power. But then I just noticed that I would almost never listen to contemporary music piece in headphones, unless it's really just I need to know it.
That's what I also feel with contemporary music. It's like that once you're there, like where they actually play it, then you have like a full, incredible experience. Yeah. But if you put it on YouTube, like it sometimes can be very, very flattened. The experience, but it makes sense if you're there. Yeah. But if you're not there, it's just
absolutely. That's. I mean, and of course, because there's been so much research in contemporary music on the timbre. On the Klangfarbe, what is it in English? Timbre, right? Yeah. So the color and all the research was huge. You know, like if it was only before, like you take a string instrument. If before it was basically pizzicato, and of course different articulation.
Like acousmatic music, right?
No, acousmatic. That would be already actually electronical music, like already music made for loudspeakers or headphones. But even normal acoustic music with instruments. the research there from the 50s, 60s, from the spectral music, like the French school or the Lachenmann, all the extended techniques, like all these little nuances, which are very well heard and made through. Of course, they very much lose their grip when you just listen like this. So, yet, of course, it's like if you put on, I don't know, Bach on the piano, the information, like you still receive, I think, I would say 80% of the information that was put in the piece, because you hear the piano correctly, so you get it. If you hear an orchestra or a contemporary music piece, I think you just get already 50% of information of all the nuances, because they're flattened, and I mean there are things happening around. Yeah. Yet, of course, the headphones.
Sometimes there are good headphones. I have seen there are some good headphones too, but I guess but then you need also good recording.
Yeah.
I guess that's also sometimes a problem. Okay, so you said you don't listen to music anymore. That's a funny thing. That's a funny thing too.
Not so much. Like if you ask me what's the last.
But you've been actually you started with a punk rock band.
Yeah.
Noise band.
Rock and roll and then punk rock. Yes, I played in in the high school. It was actually I actually was a big Beatles fan. Like when I was 10 years old. So like I really came out from Beatles and then Led Zeppelin, Beatles, Pink Floyd, Deep Purple, but then it kind of shifted through Jimi Hendrix and then into Miles Davis.
And then it started like.
And then was also the whole Ramones, Green Day, Screeching Weasel kind of bands. So I played that in a couple of bands, and then I started to go more into jazz, but like fusion jazz, and so I was like I was actually inspiring to be a guitar player and to play all that stuff. And then so actually I was in the conservatory as a guitar player, but then it was like kind of clear, like why would you spend so much time? Like the performing really didn't work, because it was this thing that at some point I remember at some point when you're practicing, and then you understand that, okay, another 2 weeks of practicing every day and you're gonna really master this piece. Like,
or you can start practicing something else and...
Like I wouldn't have the patience of like once I would understand that I can do it, I would lose the interest to really practice it.
Fuck, I have the same thing. I have the same thing. It's like you can have something at 95%, or you can have something at 90% and some other thing at 60. So why practicing the same amount of effort for the last 5% if you can spend the same amount of effort learning new thing and a new thing and new thing and new thing?
Yeah, for instance, yeah. But for me that was switching to composition, because in composition until it's complete and performed, it's not done. It's really you still don't know what is it actually. Even so, actually you do have the last experience and then like that. But for performing, yes, I would lose interest kind of very early and start doing other stuff, and then I would have a great repertoire and know a lot of stuff, but never really being able to perform it like fantastically.
Yeah, I have this with breakdance now, like because I'm learning breakdance as well for like last 7 years. This is like way to move that highly relies on virtuosity. So yes, there is style, yes, there is personal expression, but there is also at its core, like there's a lot of virtuosity. So you have to nail the movement, you have to not crash, you have to do these acrobatic, beautiful transitions and movements, but you're not supposed to crash. Once you crash, so once you slip or like don't do movement perfectly, it doesn't matter what you did, because it just doesn't matter, because you proven to be failure.
Yes.
So it's very different to contemporary dance, where it's like oh, we embrace the failure. So in a way, the bar of performing contemporary dance is like so much lower on this the virtuosic level, because you can embrace the failure, you can like perform the failure, you can perform, you know, not knowing something, whereas in breakdance you cannot. So you have to be 100% confident and in all that you do. But then these movements, they take so much time and so much effort to learn, that like somewhere around 60% of having actually mastered the movement, I'm like, but there is so many other interesting things I could be exploring physically as well. And then it's like, then it's always this difficult journey because you need to be a bit knucklehead in order to get some of those so-called power moves, because they are like so difficult that you just need to repeat, get the feedback, repeat, get the feedback, and so on. But as I said, like there's some 100 other things that you could learn in between instead of that. So that's so much more interesting.
Yeah, and that is actually this search for freedom. Because there you're searching that which you would like to do and have the pleasure. The satisfaction of doing that, and I think that's much more like when you have that transforms, that shines through the performance. Like when you see somebody who is doing that and he's having, like you can see he's like, it's just another thing. So for sure, and of course, there's always this talk, a lot of work, but it's different when you do a lot of work because you really love it. So the half of the work is actually not even work. It's just like you're having time of your life.
It's still work.
Exactly, it's still work, but then
it's the kind of work you want to do.
Exactly. And then, of course, there is maybe this part of the work which is not that fun, like producing and having finding money. I don't know, whatever. But it just gets easier. So
whenever I go to the studio, like I wanna be doing the things that only cause me fun, like that only give me fun time. Because if I'm already spending so much time on organizing things, then like whenever I come to the studio, I just wanna have fun.
Yeah.
Because if I would have to suddenly, because when I was in the university still, it was so important, like, because it was a different setting. So I didn't still know that the producing part of it, I didn't know that the real life part of it. So whenever I would go to the studio, it was always like, oh, but this artistic idea, let's negotiate it with this artistic idea. Is this important? How we do it like this? Or there's this negotiation. I think it gets so important, but like nowadays, if I go to the studio, I'm like, I mean, fuck this. Yeah, fine, whatever. It's like, this is fine and this is fine. It doesn't matter because the harder part is actually organizing this to be even possible. So I have so much more fun now in the studio and so much less time in the studio now than before. It's this freedom that has been taken away by being adult.
Being adult. Yeah, I mean, the way it all goes, and it's actually pretty much a mystery.
But you're also an improviser. Like, what's the difference? What's the experiential difference between improvising and composing?
Yeah, it was a very natural thing. I wouldn't even call myself like it's a separate thing for me, because at some point I was just creating some instruments, not really like completely like newborn instruments, but basically taking long tubes and connecting them to the brass instruments, and then putting on different kind of mouthpieces from Indian instruments or from clarinets, and combining the kind of different families, and so you get to crazy sounds, and
crazy.
And it sounds really great. But then what happens is that exactly in that what we discussed, the way of rehearsing a piece in the contemporary music, you never have time even to set it up, because you have like 2 rehearsals. So you bring all this stuff to the player, and the fact is like, okay, he will do it. Basically, he will do what you say in the arc of time that is there, but it's not like he has the time of taking it and
digesting.
Yes,
getting familiar with the new instrument.
Exactly. Maybe somebody, yes, if he has his personal interest or he really is inspired. but normally it would be like basically like, okay, he does it. So it was very obvious that, okay, that I had to start to play it myself, because then so then I started playing myself, and the improvisation or like pre-composed improvisation like would just absolutely overflow. So like there was like 2, 3, 4, 5 years where it was much more of that. And then I noticed that out of this, where you're just basically improvising and being pretty much free in the structure, then you would feel the need to have a little bit more structure. So the pieces would start to change.
Part of the same process.
Yes.
Like actually, instead of researching in a studio, you're researching with live audience. So
yes.
you have actually feedback.
Yeah, actually yes. And then of course when you compose, then at the end you do have also live audience. So it's more this. It's actually like what would you like to be the kitchen for this end result?
But then you don't judge yourself. I think that's the important thing, because often like I love improvising so much. Like I as much as I love composing, I also love improvising. I think it's seen and young, but then there is always like, but then it has to look good, but then it has to work for the audience. So you kind of cut corners there, like like solutions that work for sure, and sometimes you don't explore fully, but you go for things that work.
Yeah.
But I don't think you have this.
I don't think so. I actually normally there is a.
Like you're an uninhibited improviser.
I think there is some sort of like I think call him rebel is a little bit too flattering, but. Some sort of guy who just gets angry with myself, and then I actually try to fuck it up a little bit. So then I kind of do, like I try to surprise myself. So I do maybe like I stand up during the improvisation and go into another room and I start to play very loud from that room without knowing how it's going to be, knowing pretty much how it's going to be perceived there. But
without preconceiving.
Yeah, even without planning it, or maybe I've done it more times, so then at some point I know that it can happen, but not planning it. So yeah, but of course, there is always this moment. Okay, the improvisation starts, and it's like there is this magical emptiness in the thing that you don't know, but then you're just letting yourself be in the moment, and kind of letting it guide you. And that's true. Sometimes when there is the dialogue starts to like shouldn't like, or you did something and then there is a little technicality, like for example the motor doesn't start because the amplifier has to be.
I love that. I love errors also.
Yeah.
But the kind of errors that I can control, because for example now in this setup, if something gets broken, I don't have tools to fix it. But if it's like art, then I love it.
Yeah, but then of course sometimes it happens, and then it's just it depends. Sometimes it's stuck and it's just actually, and everybody then after says you, oh, and that was really great. Like, was it planned?
Really great how you fell down there. Yeah. I love that. I love this slip. It was so natural. It was natural, it was so well performed.
Yeah, so actually there's you still kind of come to this thing that there are no recipes and no rules, but of course you're kind of working to build this set of tools. But then you do something, but then for example, like I remember this one thing, we had this duo with Marina Poliukhina, and we played together, and I remember I was so frustrated during this thing. I was like really having the feeling that this was really going bad, and like having this continuous mental dialogue of you should just like stop and don't play. And so I was absolutely sure that it was be terrible. And then after we finished, she comes to me and says, "Wow, you played so amazingly! So." And then I would listen to the CD after it, and it would actually sound pretty good. So I don't know. It's like the voice inside your head is just another voice. So
don't listen to it.
Basically, well, be aware of it, but don't trust it.
Yeah. It's like the mirror. Like it's like you look in the mirror, and you see an image of yourself, but it's not you. It's a projection.
Actually, yeah, exactly. And it's
the mirror can be crooked.
Yeah.
Why are you interested? Because it maybe comes from improvising actually. Like now it makes sense, but because you're super interested in error and failure, and so on. So they did the piece, several pieces, I guess, already on some kind of a mistake.
Yes.
Why?
Well, it's the error would be exactly this crossing point of order and chaos, coexisting, and in this moment the error is just actually this.
So there's beauty.
Yeah, there is this clear intention of doing something defined and then not succeeding, and something undefined becomes defined.
Right.
So it's exactly that little borderline of thing. So of mystery, and also it really doesn't have this control. It's like it can really be fucked up, maybe like not even then saying, oh, but then this error was so nice, it really gave another light. No, maybe it's really like you forgot to turn on the microphone, I don't know, stuff like that.
True, yeah.
Exactly. So, but at the same time, you just like slowly notice that in life, you basically
constantly solving problems.
Yeah, and that if you just don't the mistakes are inevitable. So you as soon as you learn to embrace them, the sooner you just kind of you just learn to go forward smoothly.
I think this is the improviser talking right now. I love this as well. I love figuring out things as I go.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, today you're gonna do this. Oh, okay, let's do it.
Yeah. And there is also this kind of if there is something really scares you a little bit that you have to do, you have to do it, and then you're also procrastinating because you're afraid, because you're not sure, and it seems very important, and so on. And that's a curious situation because we all have them, right?
Yeah.
And the only thing that helps is actually doing it.
Yeah.
When you start doing it, actually the fear kind of goes away because then now you are doing it. And that's the mistakes. That's the living error because.
So do you feel inspired by the crisis that we have right now?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it crisis, but probably it is. I mean, if it's
health crisis, economic crisis of sorts.
I'm for
structural crisis of the society,
yes, health and everything. Yeah.
Although Austria is doing pretty well, but still it's a crisis. We are going. I'm going actually in tomorrow. No, the day after tomorrow to Latvia. But they put us on they put Austria on a on a yellow list of sorts. So when we arrived there, we were supposed to get tested, and then we were supposed to not mix with the participants. We will do choreography, but then we work with people when we work is fine because there's an exemption, but if we eat together with them, that's not fine anymore. So we have to sleep in a separate apartment from everyone, eat in a separate apartment from everyone, leisure time separately from everyone, but to work is no problem. It's so weird.
Kind of strange, yeah, kind of strange. That's.
But also, speaking of error, I've been interested in the dance, the beautiful dance that fails because to be beautiful, because there is so much pathos in dance. There is so much pathos in movement expression. Of course, in the movies, in all the popular culture, there's always pathos, but even in contemporary dance itself, there is so much pathos, and I think if you do exactly opposite, as a comedy or not as a comedy, there is also some big unexplored area of expression. I think that's where the error is interesting.
Yes. It's really actually this morning I was rehearsing with this drummer and a dancer. I mean, she's a dancer, but also she's talking. She's for this piece that we are doing, and kind of we came to the point that maybe it has to be a cool dance there, cool, groovy, beautiful dance, and nobody, no one of us has really an idea what it is. So all I know is that actually she has some sort of very practical things that she she's like, I mean, you could say she's making mistakes, but actually what she does is she's just like, she's coming to a space and she's just remembering what she has to do. She's like, okay, so right or left? Yes. Okay, then I go like this. All right, and then I jump, and all these things that I did like now, this, and jump, okay, So she's just checking, she's just remembering, she's just making a technical run-through of a situation. And this thing that somebody has making a technical run-through of a situation has to evolve into something which is actually becomes very a concrete, like a dance, like a saraband or a modern saraband or whatever, but only on a certain level. For example, she does this, but then maybe there is some way of maybe a musical instrument or a trigger or something, and then it becomes faster and faster. So at some point, something which you see is just somebody like figuring things out, and then it becomes faster or slower, what I know.
So you're doing choreography.
And at some point, she is actually a dance. I don't know. I guess so. I'm afraid to say that because I'm afraid also
yeah,
say like
we already don't have many jobs, but now we have even less jobs. Thanks to Alexander.
Yes, exactly. No, but it's actually an interesting topic because also stage directing, like I'm kind of doing that, but then I'm not really a stage director. I also like working with actors. I started doing that, but it's a completely different universe.
Absolutely.
Like with the musicians, it's so easier.
But this is great. Like I think this is great about being contemporary artist of any kind, that you can like fluently move, meander between things you can actually do, because none of this thing is that defined in order for you to exclude you from trying it at least. And I think you can, because it's not defined, then there is no one way to do it, so there's or a given way to do it, so basically everything is valid. But yes, then of course there is always a craft that is nice to have, but also sometimes an openness is nice to have. So for example, if a complete ignorant like me would start doing music, maybe I come up with something interesting too. But, but then if you can also kill me for doing it, because I haven't studied for many years.
Yes, but there is some sort of like, if you, it's just, like if you're sure about, like for some reason, maybe you just like some sound, right? And then you start to experiment with it, and then at some point you make a piece with the sound. It's basically like as long as you are, I'm not sure if confident is the right word, because it has like some sort of annotation of this self-confidence, like you believe in yourself and stuff, which is fine. But I'm talking more about this thing, like if you really like it and you kind of like, you're absolutely sure and you cannot fake it. Like if you're not so sure, then you're not going to be so sure. You can actually, then you have to be confident. Then you have to, but otherwise, if you're just really genuinely like it, for sure there's going to be somebody, okay, but that's not music, whatever. But that's being said against like you don't even have to listen. So I remember like there was an interview about Pink Floyd about Syd Barrett with Roger Moore. No, who's the other guitar player? It's like you had Syd Barrett, who was this very how can I say, like a primitive genius. Like he would actually like explore the guitar in a very personal way, and he would actually not really play it in a way that others did, but he kind of like, for him this is the way I
play with a coin.
Yeah,
This is Queen, but in Pink Floyd it was also a genius.
Playing with a coin.
Yeah, the guy from Pink Floyd, from Queen played with a coin.
I don't know that one. Maybe Brian May. Yeah. Maybe you can show. Jimi Hendrix used to play with his teeth.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah. But it was just more, and this other guitar player, he said like this thing that if you just do it and for you that's the way you do it, then that becomes the way it is. And then you just either you accept it or not. So then this when you say like, okay, maybe without knowing nothing about music, I can do something. Absolutely. But it's up to you deep down in your core to decide whether it's good or not. Actually, And I mean, of course, many will say, okay, this is shit, but or this is genius, but that doesn't really matter at the end if you kind of or does it?
Well, I think it's a very difficult thing, because there is also this thing in dance, like there's a exactly performance art is dominating the field of choreography in Vienna, let's say, and then there's gonna be people who focus less on like all the technicality of how to express with the body, for example. So they focus more on the topic, they focus more on the I don't know, props, they focus more on writing a great concept, for example, or like make everything make sense, but they focus less on I don't know, training every day, for example. So there is also this. I think both are valid. It's just I think the nicest maybe results are if you combine both. If you combine actually the ability to do something with an openness.
Yeah,
I think. Because
but then
because also your work is also, you can say it's okay, it's a child playing around with weird stuff, but actually not, because you know exactly what you like. Even if you improvise, you've been researching these objects for like years.
Yeah, you know, I think it comes very much to this momentum, because when you say combining, and you're absolutely right, but then of course the question is like, okay, how do you combine, blah, blah, concept and everything. But, you know, how to have this, I mean, it's not that difficult to make a good, I mean, it's difficult, there's a lot of work, but it's basically, you know, we're doing it for a long time, so we know how to do a piece, like, you know, like I can sit there and write a string quartet. But it's more about this deep inner satisfaction of having done something that really, you know, like, okay, wow, that, like, you know, you can say I had fun, or you can say it is unique, however you call it, but you have this gravity of, okay, this is going the way it has to go. So that's also very difficult in composition when you're sitting these months at the table, you know, and you have, basically you can do whatever you want, you're completely free. I mean, yes, you have instruments, whatever, but like, why this and not this? Why that and not that? And okay, of course there's many techniques, but this and there, so how you combine the physical training and the conceptual good. For me, the answer would be like this momentum. For example, like one sort of some sort of vision, like for instance, sitting on the balcony and okay, you have this one scene. You have one scene of combining, you know, something visual and physical, and a concrete sound, and the momentum of something from far away connecting with something near. And that's already, for example, if you okay, you take this. And you had it, so you had this momentum of wow, okay, this interests me. I want to try it out and work with it. Good. So you have something on the table, and then you can just, you know, take a big magnifier lens and you look at this one event that really interests you, and you know, you go inside there, and then you see the elements that are already there. And then what you do, you can kind of expand, and you know, and these relationships that are there, transpose them to the different elements that you have, but at the same time you do it with this knowing of the media that you are dealing with, because of course then talking about contemporary music and
like the context, you know, the context.
Yeah,
and I think
because this is what I think this is something that, for example, bothers you when you were talking about somebody making a good concept, right? It already sounds a little bit negative because
no, it's great. I mean, I love it, but then the execution has
exactly
to follow.
Yes, exactly, because this is exactly the point. Because very often, okay, you have a good concept, but the translation is basically the whole thing. Because I mean, maybe it's really minimal and the concept is already almost everything. Could be, but then also there is this awareness of, okay, this is already enough for the whole thing, the concept, or the translation. Like how do you really translate it into the musical moment or into the thing? And there I'm noticing that almost never it is one-to-one. Like these little adjustments, okay, this actually has to be longer, or this actually has to be, something has to change when it goes from one room into the other, and these are the things that makes difference.
I always find because you always say about combining elements, like I always find that the piece is always, the process of a piece always starts like a year before for me, but I didn't know about it. So it's like the collective ideas is constant, but somehow once I start doing something, like I connect to a thread that started a year ago, for example. I don't know if you have it like this as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's like I'm learning it all the time, but basically I'm noticing that, you know, like comes an idea and I already like, okay, I immediately try to write it down, or basically it's almost, I'm actually drawing these little drawings of little people, he goes here, he goes there, and then, but it's so clear, okay, this is, I have no idea when this can happen, right? And then maybe even 2 years later, like, okay, maybe that could be where I put it.
Right.
So yeah,
it's a beautiful thing to have the freedom to be able to do that.
Yeah,
I think that is. Yeah, I'm really happy to talk about this, because every time I talk with someone that does it from passion and from love, like I realize, yeah, I also love to do that. I also want to do that, and then I actually exactly know the feeling of actually having that freedom of being able to combine elements that don't make sense.
Would you want to see one of the sketch, for example?
Yeah, sure.
Yes?
Show me.
Yeah, for example, like this is there was this idea to, like, you know, like you have a like a blues singer, an Indian classical singer, and a Korean opera singer, and a Baroque opera singer. So you have 4 singers from completely different backgrounds, and they're really like if you hear this the Korean, I mean, it's like really different things, and with the percussion and their respective instruments. And you have like I want to combine those kind of completely different techniques, but not like a quotation or just okay one then the next one, but so that they really, maybe I don't know if I need to do that with closed headphones or not, but they really intertwine them
so that they come together.
Yeah, basically that, but still without losing their uniqueness, because it's not like now a Korean classical singer can now just improvise and jam with the Baroque. Then it's going to be those silly, awkward moments of like, I don't know, Yngwie Malmsteen playing with a classical, like heavy metal guitar player goes London Symphony Orchestra. I mean, it's fun, but it's like, okay, or maybe, I don't know. But really like make them intertwine in some way. And then
who are those people that died?
These are people with the knives that dance, and I have the feeling that they have either to be like
knives that dance.
They either have to be dancers or like Shaolin monks or something. So they do dance, but they really do martial arts in a real way, like in a dangerous way. And this whole is, I don't know, some sort of epic listening theater of some epic proportions with.
But if they had knives, then they can make sounds with knives.
Exactly, that was the beginning. That they do the rhythm with the knives, so that they are sharpen them.
This is super cool.
And I don't know if it's a musical, if it's a music theater or just a piece, or stuff like that.
This is so nice. We can work together.
Yeah, this is the like I think somewhere was the.
That's so nice. it's like. It's on one page. There should be like, you know, Jack. No. What was it?
I think I lost it.
All work and no fun make
Jack a dull boy. Exactly, yes.
It's like all work.
Yeah. No, this is because of course this is the most fun moment, because this has this great image, this vision, and you can just, and then of course like starting to work on it in detail. Okay, this is actually not possible, and this is possible. There has to be different.
Yeah,
then
but there is an art in compromising. I feel
Yeah.
that is a nice. I always like when there is a constraint and when I have to solve an actual issue. So, for example, this is not possible, but we can do it
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
That is
absolutely.
the most creative, the most interesting thing
Yeah.
even for me. Because sitting at a blank paper for me is like
terrible.
always like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hate studios that have no character. Like you just enter, it's like there's nothing there.
Yes.
Like, but some people love it. Some people need that. Some people need like just complete openness, complete. I like noise everywhere. Like people construction work, people constantly looking at what you do. I love that. I love when there is chaos.
It's personal, right? Yeah. It's exactly. Yeah, and of course that's also like basically it's our duty to organize ourselves to have that what we need to do some stuff. Yeah.
Okay then, I think then we can wrap it up here. We have so much more. Like Alex is doing incredible work with objects, and I think that's also something that I'm actually personally fascinated. Like how you can interact with objects. Of course, musicians interact with objects all the time. But your objects are very different objects than normal musician would interact with. So I think this is extremely interesting, and I guess you just have to check Alex's work out because it's extremely interesting. You're based in Vienna, but you're also in Russia, Italy, and all around the world. So thank you so
now
much.
making this project in Halle in Germany with this Berlin collective. Hauen und Stechen. They're really, it's a completely different world because they're making Rimsky-Korsakov opera, classical opera, and inside of that I'm doing like my pieces inside of this opera. Cool. And so there's this like absolutely traditional singers which I have to work with, but make them do something very out of their comfort zone. So yeah, so of course a lot of shit.
So yeah, it was a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you very much. Yes, great conversation.
And yeah, we see each other
Yes.
again and again and again.
Probably
and
like
again.
5 minutes now after dismantling the cameras and everything.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yes.